I made both ends. I've got that one attached down there already. I already had this one attached. See, the two holes here are for the threaded rods that come through. Of course, I had to take it all off again to do some other repairs. Okay, now I've got it back together. I'm gonna try to put the blade on. Now these wheels have not been adjusted yet. They need to be lined up. I just thought I would get this on and put a little bit of tension on here and see how it works. Now these rods come through here and they do two things. They put tension on the blade by pulling the wheel this way, and also they'll be able to adjust the tracking. If you adjust one individually, it'll move the wheel like that, which will adjust the tracking. That's the theory anyway. We'll see how it works in practice. Before I put any tension on the blade at all, I need to get this wheel close to where it should be and measure from the face of it back to the frame. It doesn't look too bad. Well, it doesn't take much adjustment on that plywood plate to move this quite a lot, actually. It's a little tap will make a big difference. I think that looks pretty good right there. Now that that's tightened up, I can tighten up these nuts here and put some tension on the blade. That's looking not bad. And I'll use this straight edge to see how in line the wheels are. A little bit more on the bottom here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Of course, I won't really know how well it's tracking until it's actually powered, but this looks pretty good. A popular thing to use for the tires are bicycle inner tubes. Up until recently, I had them on my bandsaw, but I took them off to try an idea that I had. This is silicone caulking. This is 100% silicone, clear. A lot of people call anything that's in a tube silicone, but this is actually silicone. And it has to be, this is, the clear rubbery stuff when it dries. And I'm going to use that as tires on here. I did it on my bandsaw. It's holding up well. It's easy. All you need to do is tube it on like this and then spread it on with your finger reasonably evenly. It doesn't have to be super smooth because it does compress. I'm just going to take my finger and smooth it out. The advantages to using this as opposed to inner tubes is that, well, first of all, it's a little bit easier to find. You can go to any home center and buy this. In my case, I've already got it because I normally have that stuff on hand. And the other thing is, it just goes on the surface of the tire, the edge of the tire here. It doesn't drape down over. And the problem that I've had with the ones that I had on my bandsaw is that they would fill with dust. And it would take a long time, but eventually it could become a problem because the dust gets caked up in the side of them there and may throw the wheel off balance. The disadvantage to this, though, is that it's not instant. You have to wait until this dries. I'm going to leave this to set overnight before I put the blade back on, actually. It's a couple days later, I let the silicone dry. I put the blade back on. I tensioned it up. It's pretty good. And now I'm getting ready to attach the legs. Cut those out of a used 2x4s. To attach them to the frame, I'm going to be using these gusset blocks that will go right on here. and screw through to the leg. So if you've been following along on the forum, you'll know that this saw is fixed. It doesn't move. You'll see some that are on rollers. They roll forwards. This one is on legs also that don't adjust up and down. Instead, I'll be making a flat dolly with a short piece of log to sit on, and that'll roll through, be caught on the blade. And then I'll just lift that up by stacking boards either underneath the casters that the dolly will roll on, or by stacking underneath the piece of wood itself. The main advantage to doing it that way is it's less complex. Also, I can make the frame very stiff without a lot of work. Okay, let's back out to the shed to get more lumber. I need pieces for braces, and I think that these short pieces of tongue groove board I've got here will be long enough. I don't want to take ones that are too nice looking. I get the ones that are beat up or full of knots. Gotta pull the nails up before I can use it though. Should have done that before. Put it in the shed. I almost fell down on this stuff the other day. I guess I could get all fancy and measure and cut, you know, the right angles here and all that, but in the interest of getting it done, I'm just going to put these on like that. It really doesn't make a difference. Actually, it adds to the charm. You have, you know, that little bit sticking out there. This would be better with two people, I'm sure, but when you work alone, most of the time, you get used to doing stuff like this by yourself. Well, the frame is all braced up, but I need a place to put this big motor, and that has to be pretty solid. So dig through the junk I've got piled up in the corner over here. And I got this piece of melamine. I'll use that. I've got the melamine cut to put in, but first I need to add this cross member. Just screws into the frame on both sides. This piece of melamine not only supports the motor, it also helps to brace up the top to keep that from racking. What I wind up with is a very strong frame that resists moving while the cutting is going on. Okay, I've got the motor put on and the belt hooked up. I've also checked the tracking on the blade here. It looks good. I've got a cord put on the motor. Now this is 120. Even though I'll be running this saw on 220 or 240. But right now I want to test it. So, got my fingers crossed. hopefully the blade stays on. Looks good. I got a fair amount of tension on the blade too. Okay, that's nice. I like it when something actually works that you spend so much time on. Even though I didn't spend a lot of time on this. The next step is to button up the details. I'll make the blade guides for the bottom here. I want to make a bit of a guard for the blade on top here, just in case it snaps and flies off. You never know. Better to have a piece of plywood, something up here to stop that. I got a comment on video number 2 from Geek Woodworker saying he's got a saw. His is running with a 2 horsepower motor also, but he's running his at 4,400 feet per minute. Now I've calculated the blade speed for this to be around the same as my bandsaw, which is 2,500 feet per minute. So I'm thinking I could up the speed, but I really want to try it at this lower speed first to see how it works.